First of all, I would like to thank the board of the World Fashion Week for being so kind to invite us, to the défilé and of course to the forum. And I will tell you exactly why the reasons here. It's not just the brand or myself. It's foremost the cause. I think that every single woman in the world, we are all so much touched, by this culture in Africa of mutilating genitals of women. The second reason that I'm here is to literally represent Bolivia, because I need to give you a little bit of my professional background, if I may, because it's quite interesting. I did things the other way around. I started in Paris, but I started my first company in New York City. And I was there for many years, almost 15 years, alongside, always in the haute couture and couture categories. And therefore I had the extraordinary opportunity to work with, side by side, with people like Carolina Herrera, my goodness, Ralph Lauren, Calvin Klein, Diane von Furstenberg. So I really saw the very best of our industry in New York City. And I was very spoiled in the sense that most of my workers were Italians, Europeans, Americans. My forte is, tailoring. Now, by the international press and by the experts in the industry, I'm considered pioneer in working in modern, timeless designs, alpaca and vicuña, doing from gowns for brides to coats to dresses to cocktail dresses, because alpaca and vicuña is not just for the mountains. Now, the point that I want to make, this is obviously the main reason. In the mid-90s, everybody started going to Asia in order to manufacture their lines, Many colleagues of mine, like Calvin Klein and so forth, And I thought senseless to go all the way to Asia so far with my alpacas and vicuña fiber. As you know, first of all, I would like to re-emphasize that in order to get that luxurious, soft, silky-like fiber, we do not need to kill the animal. The animals are sheared. Therefore, it's definitely 100% sustainable development with the, for the breeders of alpaca. Year after year, that they can feed their families, rather than going to harvest coca leaves, to the chapare or the yungas. So because they are recruited, from the alpaca breeders to go and harvest coca leaves, to process cocaine, as you know. But thank God that they don't need to do that, anymore, and they can it's sustainable development. So at one point, since the forte of my line is tailoring, I did remember, actually thanks to my mom, because I've been away from Bolivia for over 30 years before I went back. She reminded me that we have extraordinary tailoring in Bolivia. So I made a little scouting tour, indeed, because by this time I couldn't afford to lose the category of the brand, and most of all, I'm obsessive with the finish of the product, So eventually, I did go back to Bolivia. I set up the factory there. I stayed there. This is the mid-90s. I'm still there in Bolivia, and I shall never regret it one single second, because having been away from Bolivia for so many years, I almost lost touch of our country, which is, as you know, a very underdeveloped country. We have a socialist government. Things are quite difficult. It's a is very poor. It's poorer than Haiti, I believe. And the standard basic salary is $250 a month. How can you make that? How can you survive with that? So it has been an extraordinary experience for me going back there. So I started the company. I had to literally, I'm the first company that I started. I'm talking to you now, not as a designer, but as an entrepreneur woman. I'm the first company that started exporting, sweaters. Yes, there was a company before me, but I mean, in fabrics. And therefore, I had to literally climb hills and everywhere. La Paz, it's one of the highest capitals in the world, and in order to recruit tailors and seamstresses and embroiderers and all that. And then I realized that indeed they have extraordinary talent, and they are self-taught, because we don't have academies down there where you can learn how to sew, tailoring, pattern making. We all not industry. It's passed down from generation to generation. So I really, really, in my eyes, they have tremendous, of course, potential, and my heart goes out to them, because they are extraordinary. Nowadays, I export the product literally to 5 continents, and yes, I'm not going to give you here a rose garden that it was so easy, so simple, so this, so that. No, very difficult, particularly with many different laws that they want to do away sometimes with entrepreneurs, with the private businesses, So you have to fight all that. But the thing that I am extremely proud is that, it's not just in Bolivia, but I started in New York, giving employment to special persons, to disabled people. And I'll never forget, my very first benefit fashion show was with then First Lady, Mrs. Barbara Bush, which was for her leukemia association. She had a child that died of leukemia in the States. So I was selected with 3 other American designers at the Plaza Hotel. That was the little seed that planted, within me to start really, because we have to admit it, here in the fashion industry, we are in a very ephemeral world sometimes, it's very Hollywood, I mean, let's not beat around the bush, it's the drugs, the promiscuity of, sometimes the alcohol, this, that, lots of money, and sometimes we can get lost. Beautiful women, beautiful men, and all that, But at the same time, our industry, we have an incredible social responsibility. Because if you think about it, around the world, and not just in Bolivia, around the world, there is exploitation of labor, laboring children, of women. They are not paid. And we're talking about countries, not just Africa or India or China or whatever. Right next door, we're talking about, with all my apologies if there is any Brazilian or Argentinian here, right there in Argentina, in Brazil. And sometimes Bolivians that go to Argentina, they exploit their own Bolivians, just for the little plate of food, 14, 16 hours a day, without pay. So we have, I think, a tremendous responsibility. Excuse me, the fashion industry is not just about us, the designers, our labels, and this and that, I'm embarrassed to tell you how much a Bolivian alpaca breeder makes. I was giving a conference in Lima one time, no, in Chile, beg pardon, and one of the breeders, of Vicuña asked me, lady, how much do you sell a coat for in New York City? And I was so embarrassed to answer, so I had to tell the truth. So I said the truth, in the press, And there was almost like a strike of all the breeders that were there, because it multiplied by a thousand times when it gets to the consumer, right? How much does the breeder get? A few cents, a few dollars, if anything, And anyway, so I almost immediately upon my arrival in Bolivia, I started working because I had already this thing for social cause. I must say, it's not something that it just comes to you. I must say that I'm very fortunate. I come from a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful parents and family, and where they have always taught us, to share, to share whatever you have, not of your leftovers, but to share whatever you can, So I started giving employment to disabled people. It was unheard of in Bolivia to give their employment to workers that come on wheelchairs, deaf mutes, and as long as they can work. And excuse me, I don't give them special treatment. I have so many. They make the same wages, the same hours, the same this. I had to give this anecdote of Queen Sofia. I was so proud. One time she visited our factory in Bolivia, and after coming down from the factory, she said, "Doña Beatriz, do you have? Is this a hospital or a factory?" Because she saw so many wheelchairs and so many deaf mutes, and she has a tremendous sense of humor. I adore that. Queen of Queens, I beg pardon, I adore Queen Sofia. But going back to Bolivia, it's not easy, because I believe that the true definition of empowerment of women is a process, of affirming basic opportunities, not based on disability, race, religion, or gender. And whoever tells you that there is no racism in Bolivia, they're wrong, or they're lying to you. There certainly is racism. Considering that there are at least 80% of indigenous people, as criollos, we are called criollos from mostly Spanish descent, and or other European nationalities, we are called criollos. So the indigenous peoples are the ones that really are not in a very, very, very good position, and all kinds of discrimination, of course. First of all, they lack total basic skills. Some of them cannot speak Spanish. They speak the other languages like Aymara, Quechua, Guarani, which is from the area of Bolivia. So you have to start with that, And in this tremendous world, even myself, I'm much intimidated with this technology that every single day changes this and that. Imagine them, And I also cannot imagine how to, to export without speaking a little bit of English at least, it is very difficult. And we have to be real. In Bolivia, we are known for drug trafficking, for the socialist government, but the worst. I'm very proud to tell you that a few months ago I was named Ambassador of Goodwill for Bolivia in order to defend and fight against the traffic of children and the stealing of organs of children. Now, of course, if they name you, because I don't like to be just a flower vase, I want to. When I accept something like this, I want to work and be involved. So what do? You read about it, you inform yourself. Did you know that child trafficking and trata de personas, ¿cómo se dice trata de personas en inglés? Trafficking of people. Human trafficking, thank you very much. Human trafficking, it's more profitable right now than drug trafficking and trafficking of arms. please go into internet. I'm not saying that. Check the facts, so you can imagine. So in Bolivia we have this, foreign mafias involved with Bolivians, of course, where they are stealing our children, this and that. So we have to learn how to give them basic skills, basic knowledge of at least, the technology to come into the 21st century, and most of all to give them dignity, self-assurance, to give them, of course, there's a lot of domestic violence like at any other place in the world, of course, But I think the empowerment of women, to me, it means to be able to be self-sufficient, social and economically. Very, very important in order not to put up with all these, things, because there's a lot of machismo in Bolivia, which myself, believe it or not, when I first arrived to Bolivia, I solicited a credit line, and they wouldn't give it to me. I had a company, I had everything, because they needed my husband's signature. First of all, I'm not married, so where would I produce a husband, So if to an entrepreneur woman, they would ask her for the signature of the husband, what about the indigenous women less fortunate than myself, And so it is not easy at all. And they end up, of course, going into drug trafficking, prostitution, themselves, the women, trafficking children, selling their own children. So the best way to give them dignity is to get involved with perhaps NGOs, that will help the communities. And as designers, how can we help, We can, of course, teach them, basic rules of designing and color matching, because we have to be realistic. These products have to sell. Otherwise, how are they going to make a living, correct? So it had to be, in how to export the product, a good product, because the consumer is very demanding, and I don't blame them. They want a perfect product, and that's it. So we have to, we are teaching them all that, And personally, in my company, there's an NGO which we give our leftover fabrics and linings and other things in order for them to make accessories and so forth like that, And finally, I think that it's not just the creative side, the design part, the manufacturing, the sewing, the embroidery, the this, the that, But I truly believe that the underdeveloped women, the indigenous women, in the case of Bolivia, they have to be taught how to be, to plan very carefully, to be very well organized, to have a business plan, of course, all this by an, taught by NGO, because we all know that the failure, for fashion companies, so many designers in the world, my goodness, so much competition. There's not all these copycats, that they copy our original design, but that's another subject. But we have to teach them the proper way, the right way, because it's not just the creative side. I emphasize it's the business part. Otherwise, how are they going to survive in their communities? That's very, 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 very important. So that's all I wanted to say about Bolivia. Do you have any questions?